everybody. It is Friday. It is Friday, October 2nd of 2020. But how has your week gone? I must ask, as I do every week, how has your week gone? Let me know right now. Say it aloud. Good, bad, what? I see. Okay. Well, if it was good, I'm glad. I'm happy that you have had a good, productive week under your belt, or maybe it was good because you weren't productive. It's all about how you see it, of course. And if you didn't have the best week, well, it will get better. Things will get better for you next week, I promise. In some fashion, something will change, even if it's really small, that will make your next week better. My week, though, has been interesting in a number of ways. Not bad, necessarily, but just very interesting. I mean, we had the debate on, I believe it was Tuesday, which I'll talk about in a minute. I had like a ton of schoolwork this week. I had a project for one of my classes that I kind of put off to the last second. Sorry, I'm not the best student in that regard, but I still got it done. I spent like all day on Wednesday working on it in between classes, and yeah, it was a lot to do, but we got it done. We got it done, people. It's all about how you finish, right? Today, the Oakland A's beat the Chicago White Sox to advance to the divisional series against our heated rival, the Houston Astros. This 3-game series against the White Sox was wild for me because a gentleman by the name of Nick Madrigal, which some of you listening to this may know already who that person is on the White Sox. He's a baseball player, and I actually went to high school with him. We both graduated class of 2015 from Elk Grove High. He was in a couple classes with me. One of them was my photography class, and I actually helped him out on a couple assignments, and he was cool with me. I mean, we were both cool. I wouldn't consider him like a friend, but we were good acquaintances for sure. And it's just interesting to see this guy who I like knew from 5 years ago from high school is on my television screen, and I'm like actively rooting against him because he's going up against my favorite team. Actually, in the second game of the series, he messed up, which in baseball, if some of you don't watch baseball, it's called an error. When a player makes a mistake that costs a couple scores or a run, that's called an error. So he actually had an error, and that's basically how we won the second game of the series. We lost the first game, won the second, and today it was a back and forth affair, but the A's were able to close it out 6-4. And yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. It's our first playoff series win since 2006. I was 9 years old. And we finally broke our streak of losses in do or die games. So it feels good. It feels really good, but I'm not celebrating quite yet. We still have to take care of business against the Astros, and then we're going to play either the Rays or the Yankees if we can get past the Astros. And at that point, we have to go to the World Series. If we make it that far, I hope we do. At that point, I have no clue who's going to be in that series, but let's hope that we can go pretty far this year. I would love to say let's hope we can get to the World Series, but I'm a very reserved fan in that way. I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want to be like, yeah, we're going all the way, and then we lose fucking 3 games in a row to the Astros and we're done. So I'm being very conservative, very reserved in this way. But I'm happy we won. It's very nice. It's kind of nice to end this week on this type of note, especially given the lowest point of this week, which for many of you, I can assume you share the same sentiment, which was the presidential debate, which was on Tuesday night. Now, this debate wasn't really much of a debate, honestly. This was more so just two old men talking about shit they really don't know anything about, contradicting themselves. In the case of Joe Biden, contradicting himself. In the case of Trump, just an old man sounding like a child. And, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the debate itself. Everyone knows what happened in the debate. Everyone knows basically what was said. And I'm not going to sit here and kind of pick apart the debate. That's not what I'm doing today. What I am doing, though, is talking about what Chris Wallace, who's the moderator of the debate, the heat he's gotten from the right because of his moderation in the debate. Remember, he's an employee of Fox News, which is a conservative-leaning news organization. Conservatives and the Trump coalition are going after Chris Wallace. They think that he was holding Trump back and was holding Trump's feet to the fire unfairly, unjustly. Well, I mean, to that I would say Chris Wallace, I thought, did as good of a job as he could, because Trump's strategy was to be obnoxious and interrupt Joe Biden as much as possible and get him off his A game. And he tried to shake him as much as he could to make Joe Biden look dumb. And Joe Biden didn't do anything, literally nothing, to gain supporters on the left. He definitely was trying his best to position himself as a centrist candidate that can appeal to both moderates from both sides. He tried his best. And, for an old man, he performed, admirably under the circumstances having to deal with Trump. But in the end, he contradicted himself, especially on the Green New Deal. He started out saying that he supported the Green New Deal and that the Green New Deal would pay for itself. And then at the very end, he says, I don't support the Green New Deal. I support the Biden plan. Well, what's the Biden plan? And he wouldn't answer what the Biden plan was. So nobody knows what that even fucking means. That's where he kind of he would have lost people from the far left if it wasn't for Trump acting the way he did and not condemning white nationalism, which was very telling. And one Ben Shapiro, who some of you may know, Ben Shapiro is a conservative, online talk show host, podcast type guy. He's a talking head for the right, basically. And he said that Trump did denounce white nationalism when he said quickly and very brashly saying, sure, to just like shut up Chris Wallace so we can continue. So, Chris Wallace was like, do you denounce white nationalism? Say, you sure. But the left, the Antifa and blah, blah, blah. And that's basically what happened in the debate, right? If you want to say that Trump denounced white nationalism, technically, I guess he did, but very insincerely. Most people would have stopped and, taken the time to be just very direct with that question. I denounce white nationalism in all forms. It's not that hard to say. So if you're defending Trump and saying that he did do that, I mean, I don't see it, but whatever. Now, going back to Chris Wallace, he said that Trump bears the primary responsibility for the debate chaos. And 2020 presidential debate chaos was primarily thanks to President Trump, moderator Chris Wallace said on Fox News on Thursday. The first debate between Trump and former VP frequently descended into disarray as Trump repeatedly interrupted Biden and Wallace. Quote, the president was determined to try to butt in and throw Joe Biden off, end quote, Wallace said. Quote, he bears the primary responsibility for what happened on Tuesday, end quote. Wallace noted that Biden did some interrupting as well, but less than half as much as Trump. The organizers of the 2020 presidential debates on Wednesday announced they'd be considering changes, such as the ability for moderators to mute the candidates' microphones. And Wallace said that this would put moderators in a pretty tough spot and might not help much. I see how being able to mute the other person talking, the other party, when Trump's talking, you mute Biden. When Biden's talking, you mute Trump. I could see how that is reasonable in theory, but in practice, I can see that getting pretty messy, especially on the right. I feel like they're the type of people that would grab onto really anything that would happen in that debate and use it to kind of frame the media as in the pocket of the left. Which I'm not saying they're not 100%, but I mean, when Trump is trying to talk over Joe Biden and not letting him get a word in at all and is trying to just bring up things that are not on topic at all, it's really hard to conduct any sort of discourse and to get anything done. It would put these moderators in a tough spot, but I think it would put them in a tough spot in the minds of people who are already looking for an excuse to get pissed off over anything, So I think that pressing the mute button is actually a very good idea, and I hope it happens, at least for the next debate. If it turns out that it's actually worse than just letting them talk because Trump walks off stage or Joe Biden walks off stage or somebody, something happens like that, then I mean, we'll evaluate it again. But for now, I think it's definitely worth a shot. Allowing the moderators to push the mute button, at least, for the next debate. Got to see if that'll work, because if we can at least get one decent debate out of this election, I think most of us will be happy. I think most of us will. But yeah, so to wrap up with our last story before I get to the theme of the week, bipartisan talks continue as House Democrats pass $2.2 trillion coronavirus measure. The House on Thursday night passed a $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief bill, but it has no chance of advancing in the GOP-led Senate. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is still trying to work out a deal with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin? Yeah, I think that's it. Mnuchin. Okay, whatever. That is acceptable to Dems and Reps. The measure is a scaled-back version of the $3.4 trillion relief package passed by the House in May. No Republicans voted for it, of course. And 20 Democrats, most from swing states and swing districts, also voted against it. When it comes to offering relief, Democrats are pushing for more aid to go to state and local governments, while the GOP wants liability protections for schools and businesses, Politico reports. Pelosi told reporters on Thursday night that she is still reviewing the latest documents from Mnuchin and, quote, even if we come to some agreement, nothing is agreed to until everything is agreed to. It is the language, end quote. So, I mean, this is somewhat of a positive. At least the House is working towards providing some sort of relief. Again, because it doesn't look like this coronavirus situation, this pandemic, is going to be lifted anytime soon. Of course, every state varies. In California, things have kind of dipped. We are, entering a downturn in cases, but as is history, things are probably going to go up in about a month. So as people get more comfortable and thinking that the worst is kind of over, it seems like things will pick back up, unfortunately. So it's nice to see at least the House Democrats are trying to work on something to aid the American people. It seems like Republicans are against spending, obviously. I mean, that's fucking obvious. But I think in times like this, unprecedented times like this in our modern age, if there was ever a time to spend government money, it would be now, when things of this nature arise. If they're unwilling to even spend money now, then it just shows that they really don't care about the American people. And that's not new news to people. I'm not saying anything, revolutionary with that statement at all. But it just is showing, it's becoming more and more obvious, I should say, with each passing month where there is just no progress from Congress to pass any sort of legislation. Things may not pass until December or even until the new year, because if the Congress can flip and we can get a Democratic House and Democratic Senate, at that point, we should be able to pass something in the new year, but it may take that long just because of politics, and that's kind of sad. That's pretty fucking sad that people are getting kicked out of their rental locations, the places that they live, because they can't afford things, because unemployment is going up pretty drastically, and all these things. But yet we can't just get some legislation passed to protect people and give them a little bit of more moratorium on rent and all these things. It seems like people need it. We really should hope that things change for the better, at least after the election. But now it is time for our theme of the week. Welcome back to the theme of the week. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this. The theme of the week for this week is friendship. Now, a lot of people consider the fall, at least from my generation, as cuffing season. And if some of you older folks, or even maybe very younger folks that don't really know any of our millennial slang, but I'll tell you, cuffing season is basically the fall. It is this time of the year where a lot of people enter in relationships and begin new relationships, usually romantic. Actually, that's all cuffing season is just romantic relationships beginning right before the holiday season, right after summer ends. And it generally aligns when school starts. Schools are back in session. I'm having to do Zoom classes all the fucking time, and it can get really, really draining. And it can get so easy to get lost in the grind of school and work, or, whatever else you do. And especially during this pandemic situation where you can't see your friends, face to face very often, it can be so easy to forget. And this time of year isn't really about romantic relationships for me. Historically, this has been a time of year where I make new friends and I reconnect with old friends. And, I unfortunately begin to notice that some of my friendships that were really strong in the past are withering away. But you got to let them wither away, because that's life, You can't hold on to every connection. Things change, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing overall. But my message to you, and why friendship is the theme for this week, it's just, it's been on my mind with seeing, people getting into relationships now, and me thinking, I'm not in a romantic relationship, but I am in a relationship with a lot of my friends, in terms of just friendship and connecting with them, and really enjoying my time reconnecting with friends. And so I implore you to reach out to at least one friend this weekend and see how they're doing. And don't fall into that trap of, thinking, well, they haven't reached out to me, so why would I reach out to them? Life is too short to fall into that trap. So if you want to talk to somebody, talk to them. And if they don't reply, they leave you on red, then you know. You know where you stand, and it's okay. There's other people out there. But that's my theme for the week, friendship. Tie it in a little bow for you. There you go, friendship. And that's all I got for this week. I am your host, as always, Marco Alvarado. This has been Closing Out the Week. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, on Facebook at Closers Podcast, and on YouTube you can subscribe to us. We are The Closers Podcast on there as well. Next week, we are going to be talking to none other than the band from New York, 12th Human. They have recently put out a music video, an acoustic video for their song I Met You in the Summer, which was actually featured on their first interview of the Closers Podcast back in December of last year. It's almost been a year since they've been on. We're going to catch up with them, see how they've been doing, what they've been up to, and the like, how they've been handling the pandemic and all. Seems like they've been handling it pretty well, just to give you a little tease. But definitely check out their music prior to listening to the episode. They are featured on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere else you can get your music. Quinn will hit you back on Monday with Hang 10. Probably going to be more Rams talk. That's basically what his show is now. Ain't hating on it, but that's what you're probably going to be in store for. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. And as always, I will hit you back next week with some more stories, my insights, and a theme of the week that I have noticed again. So without any further ado, I'll bid you an adieu. Have a great weekend.